a brief session, 30 minutes on how you can actually build a brand on the platform and improve your network. We've heard a lot about it in all the subsequent sessions today. So hoping this would be more hands-on, that you can actually, work on in practical life about how you actually build a community. So all of us know that, none of us get anywhere alone, and it's about a community, and that's what LinkedIn is. It's a professional networking community. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover briefly about, just how do you actually go about building a professional network and leverage this community for your career benefits. I'm going to talk about how exactly your profile can be more, built in a way that you actually see a lot more results. What can you do beyond just your profile and your story, right? So quickly diving into, getting to know LinkedIn, we actually talk to a lot of people that are on the platform and use the platform day in and out, right? So I'm going to play for you 2 videos that talk about how people use the platform.
As a counseling psychologist for children, I've always believed that everyone can help someone. When my plans for higher studies changed, I found an opportunity on LinkedIn to restart my career. The support from my connections made me believe in myself. It's great to be a part of a culture that believes in empowering others. To me, it's not just a job, it's who I am. Take your next step with LinkedIn.
So that's one story about Shraddha using the platform to make a difference. Here is another story from Aparna.
Getting ahead means getting started. While working towards becoming a business analyst, I turned to LinkedIn to help me prepare for it. Here I got the support I needed to start learning again and move closer to my goal. Finding the right skills and getting valuable advice really made a difference to my journey. I learned that the best way to move forward is together. Take your next step with LinkedIn.
Okay, so hopefully that actually gave you a perspective. So typically in an interactive session, I'd ask the question about what stood out for you about that video. And what did you learn about LinkedIn that you did not know before? So I'm just going to answer that in the interest of time. I think the first one was really about making a difference to a community. And those are opportunities that you can do beyond building your career, right? And the second one is about building your skills. So that leads us, into our vision as an organization, what all of us at LinkedIn actually live and breathe and wake up every morning really being charged about. Our vision is to be able to create an economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce, right? And how do we do that? It leads us to actually connecting the world's professionals to make us all more productive and successful. We do that with, this entire, when we say connect to opportunity, we look at our economic graph, and that's what our platform looks like. When you think about our platform, the universe of our platform is about 774 million members. That's the community we're talking about. It comprises about 58 million companies, 14 million open jobs, 38,000 skills, 120,000 schools, and 443 billion knowledge in terms of feeds that actually are active on the platform, for 2020 as an example, right? So this is what we term as an economic graph, and this is the opportunity we are talking about on the platform. So that is the universe, and that's what we actually stand to gain when we build a profile. All of us have a profile on LinkedIn, right? How do we leverage it to best make the best use of this platform is really what I'm going to cover. So I'm diving into the details. Your profile is really your story. So think about it in terms of how would you actually communicate to somebody about who you are. So we begin by, something as elementary as adding a photograph and make that photograph most authenticated as who you are, right? In terms of, it could be a passport size photograph. It could be something that's more energetic. That is where something you're passionate about, what you're doing. Let the photograph speak for yourself, because when you actually send a request to somebody to connect with you, you see 9x more connections when you actually have a photograph. We all want to see a face behind a name, right? All of us kind of relate to that very much. So make sure you add a photograph that actually depicts who you are. And these are some stats about what it does for you, right? It has more profile views and 3x more, 36x more messages when you add a photograph. The second part is about pronouncing your name. And I'm going to go a little quicker so that I'm able to concentrate on the portions that really make a difference, because all of us have a profile here on LinkedIn. And this session is about how do you make the best use of the profile. And there are some tips and tricks I'm covering very briefly, but some areas where I think all of us can benefit a lot more. And that's where I'm going to dive a little more deeper. So record your name, make it on your mobile, 10 seconds, hold the phone 4 minutes away. That's pretty much what you can do. You also can add pronouns to make it more authentic in terms of, how you spell your name, how you'd like to be addressed, etc. Right? Create a cover story. This is really interesting in terms of introducing yourself, in terms of what you're passionate about or your expertise or what you grew up, what was it growing up, and what depicts your true self, right? This is a great way of doing this. Many of us here are very creative, so we would encourage a lot of you to kind of create a cover story with a video, because that's what gets us the maximum number of views, right? There's a section called industry, and the reason we ask you to enter the industry, because you actually get a lot more profile views. You are targeted via different recruiters that are looking for people with expertise in an industry. And if you actually have not, ticked the industry and outlined which industry do you have your expertise on, you probably will not be receiving a lot of those opportunities, right? So make sure you actually update your industry. And there are a lot more people that search via the industry every week, right? So that's the reason we should actually update our industry. If you are looking for a job, make sure you click open to work button, finding a new job. Actually, that's the way you're located via recruiters who are looking for people to hire. So make sure you actually show on your profile that you're open to work. Draft a compelling story. This is really important, and this is where I'm going to spend some time. Think about the compelling summary or the about section. When you actually look at your profile, there is an about section, and think about it as your elevator pitch, because through your profile, you don't get to speak to people, but this is the best way you actually can speak to people. Talk about it in terms of what your career aspirations are, what have you done, and what are you most passionate about. Make it no more than 40 words, but it is good. 40 words is good to keep it crisp, and it is an elevator pitch. So make sure you actually have a compelling, elevator pitch in this about section. Step 8, feature the content that brings to life a lot of what you've done, your work in terms of what are the projects you've completed. In the featured section, make sure you actually showcase some of that great work, right? Because most people, we kind of talk about the projects that we have done, but we have an opportunity to actually showcase a lot of that. And they may be creative pieces of work. So make sure you include rich media content in terms of videos, etc., because they actually tend to get a lot more views, right? So make sure you actually include rich media content in terms of the featured content of your work. They could be projects that you've done, projects you've been recognized or won awards, right? Those are things that you'd love to kind of highlight in this section. Step 9, detail your work experience. All of us have, all of the work experience that we, through the many years that we have worked in. But make sure they are, very, very crisp in terms of a summary. And it's like you telling your story. Like I'm working at LinkedIn. What do I do? What are my KPIs? What am I measured against? And what are the recent achievements? Right? Make it first in first person in terms of you actually talking about it. Don't put bullet points. I've seen many people actually have bullet points. That is not a very compelling way of detailing your work experience. Make it a summary that has, your achievements, what you're responsible for, and what if you're passionate about something or you've achieved something, you're responsible for something, that is something that you put out there. Again, some of, the reason we ask you to do this is it has 5x more connections. People view profile views, look at your detailed work experience, have an idea about the kind of work you've done, right? Think about it. If you were looking at somebody and you were looking at their work experience, what is it you look for? Make sure your work experience summarizes your work in a very crisp manner. Step 10, detail your work experience in terms of up-to-date positions. Every time you have moved organizations, make sure you go update your profile, and so that it's up to date, right? So you make sure that, the timeframes when you worked, etc., all of them are accurate. And this is description. I covered this briefly. Grow your audience with the creator mode. So this is interesting. Not many people are aware of the creator mode. It actually helps us target a broader network than just people who are looking at, the feed. When you go to your profile, there is a section where you actually can turn on the creator mode. By doing that, what it actually helps is that you are focused on you're to begin with actually including a lot of content. Content is what you're most passionate about. When you update your content on a regular basis and you're passionate about a topic and a subject, that gets actually bubbled up, and it is actually featured in your visibility, right? So that is something that is for all people who are passionate about content, who are looking at showcasing the content that they're doing, and looking to get discovered, basis the content that they are publishing or the topics that they are passionate about. Strongly recommend that you actually look at enabling the content, allow content mode. What it also does is a lot of people start to follow you. So more than, when you look at connect with a person, it will be more follow, that the button will change to follow, right? Because you're looking at getting more followers for the topic that you're passionate about. You're actually having an engaging discussion around a topic and you're seeking feedback. It's a nice way of building a community and adding to conversations. So people that are very keen about creating content and are doing it on a regular basis would strongly urge that you actually explore the activate content creator mode. The next portion, adding volunteer experience. Most people, look at this as an also ran, but it is very important. Most recruiters today look at volunteer experience as much as your professional networks. It is what you do, right? What you're passionate about. And I've seen a lot of people here speak at the conference in terms of what are they passionate about and what is volunteer work it does. It rounds you up as a professional and more as an individual, right? In terms of all the things you do. So again, strongly urge that all of you look at what are, capturing some of the volunteer experience work that you do, right? The skills and endorsement is a very interesting area that when you're looking to actually get people whom you've worked with or people whom you've actually collaborated on different projects to endorse you for the skills that you have worked with them or your skills. And a pro tip here is when you actually ask for, your skills or an endorsement, send out a personal note to the person that you're asking for. It could be your earlier manager, could be people that you've collaborated on something that is a project that you've done. Great work accomplishments too, right? That you want to be able to, put out there. So make sure you actually, profile. And when you do that, make sure you send a personalized note. And if you're trying to actually get senior people to endorse you, you could even write proactively a note around what you think, you worked with them and have them look at it and then refine it, right? It saves them that time. So those are small tips for you to actually add more people, endorse you, and make sure it's two ways, right? You only don't want to be receiving endorsements, but you also want to be able to equally give back. This is a community. It only grows two ways when it is two ways, right? So that's an addition that I would ask for. And this is what I covered in terms of recommendations. When you're sending out recommendations, they help you build your credibility and validate your skills. So choose people that you've worked with who are good candidates to actually endorse the work and your, and some projects that you've done. They are good ways to kind of do this. So don't forget, these seem very elementary, the last few ones that I'm covering here in terms of location, education, publication, certifications, accomplishments. All of these actually build your profile and make for a compelling profile on LinkedIn. So that is my first section in terms of building a profile on the platform. The second part of what I'm going to cover very briefly, and I'm cautious of time that we're running behind, is about building thought leadership. Now that you have a great profile on LinkedIn, how do you actually build the community? How do you expand your network, right, to build a nice community that you want to actually enable on LinkedIn? The two ways that all of us do this. One is sharing updates. All of us are familiar with this. When we have something to talk about, something to share with the broader community, we all provide updates on a regular basis. The second one is about deeply exploring topics that are, passionate or something that you are interested in terms of researching, etc. That is publishing. So these are two ways of doing it. So you can see anytime, as you get onto your profile, you can share updates on, looking at best practices in terms of sharing updates. Make sure that, we constantly tend to share, articles or something that we've read, but make sure you have something to say about the article rather than just share, right? It's your point of view or something that you found interesting about the article, because that is authentic. That is your point of view about the article. It also engages a two-way conversation. This is not just publishing one way, right? So every time you look at sharing updates, here are 5 tips in terms of what you could do. Share your authentic voice while you're sharing content. Post frequently, make it a practice. If you're trying to build a network, it is not like a one-time thing, but you've got to kind of streamline to do it on a regular basis. We recommend, put it on your calendar, maybe on a Friday, once a week. Post something that you've read through the week or something you found interesting, or, something that you came across that matters to your community or something you want to share. Make sure you do this on a regular basis because it requires you to do this on a consistent basis, right? Start a conversation or share your point of view. Include rich media so that it increases the engagement, and create an opportunity for reciprocity. What I mean by that is ask the question. There are formats now in our platform that is actually about surveying or asking questions. We have a survey format we've introduced, and we've seen a lot of people do this on the platform really well. So make sure you actually explore some of these as you create and start to share updates. Publishing, and so I'm going to move to the next part, which is publishing on LinkedIn. It becomes part of your profile. Here is why you should publish. If you are a person who's passionate about writing and having a point of view on different topics, wants to engage a larger community, and wants to kind of build a network, then definitely encourage you to explore publishing. It becomes part of your profile, gets shared with your wider network, and creates a large group of professionals that you can assemble online. Right? Start with your homepage as you look to publish. We have a center. There's a help center that is about publishing online, that gives you a whole host of recommendations in terms of how you could go about publishing on the platform. Create a headline that captures the attention. It's something that is catchy. Include a photograph that stands out. Be authentic, use your voice. And I keep saying be authentic because your profile is you. So make sure it's authentic. It's your voice. Every single thing that you, it is your digital footprint online, right? So everything that you say and do online, make sure it is you and be authentic. That's really important. If there's one big takeaway from this session, I would ask for all of you to think about being authentic when you're on a platform, because it is your identity on the platform, right? Think about the audience that is looking to read this. What is it that they would be interested in? How would you actually lay out your content so that it becomes engaging, right? Think about the audience as you're publishing, and think about the article length matters. So it is, while we say long format, the ideal sweet spot that we see in terms of, best responses is around 600 to 1,000 words. So that's the pace on publishing. And as you publish, you tend to kind of track progress in terms of how many people, are looking at your publishing article. And how can you actually, I'm going to just go back and just share this again so that you can see how many people viewed your post. What are the people who have, what kind of people, what titles of people have viewed your post, what areas do they belong to, etc. So the platform has a whole host of insights when it comes to, what you can look at. So make sure, as you kind of building a point of view, You want to be able to look at what's working, what's not, so you can iterate every time you're looking at, publishing something. If you want to do it once a month, make sure you look at all of these insights so you're better enabled to kind of, make some of those recommendations useful. If you see that there's a better way, if you did not post something that had rich media content, look at what's working so that you can, keep changing them to make sure that it works, right, over a period of time. So gaining knowledge and insights, the last part about what I'm going to cover here. Many of us want to actually look at expanding our network, and we're keen about, following different kinds of companies, following different people that are industry leaders, etc. So we talked about, I saw some questions about how do you expand your network? How do I look for mentors? All of these, right? So this is about being able to look at, what are the companies that you're interested in, which part of which industry do you belong to, and which are the top companies that you're interested in following. By following those companies, you would actually look at, all of those. When you follow a company, you see a lot of feed about what's happening on that company that comes into your feed. That makes it, very relevant for you to look at and be abreast with what's happening in those companies. Same with topics too, right? That the companies are. Follow influencers, people who are, are leading the industry, leading a lot of good in the world. Follow influencers, have a point of view. It just keeps you abreast with what's going on, and also kind of motivates you in terms of what you are doing, right? So that's another way of doing it. You can add advanced filters in terms of industry, location, company, etc. as you do this, so that you are improving your feed, because at the end of the day, you need to see the feed that matters to you most. You need to look at content and posts that matter to you most. And you can constantly keep evolving this. You could be in an industry and you may have changed industry, but make sure you go and update it so that at all points of time, you're looking at the platform as a means to look at news, content, posts that matter to you, so that you are able to engage with them, benefit from them in terms of all the information that is happening with people that you're following, companies you're following, and industries that you're following, right? So make sure you constantly customizing your feed, and that's the best way for you to leverage the platform to make it work for you. So that's in a nutshell what I had to cover here. And I'm wishing you all the very best, all of you here, that in using the platform, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions at any point in time. With that, I'm going to stop. Thank you so much for having me here, and back to all of you.